From a distance, the African savanna looks almost peaceful. Beneath a white-hot sky, endless grasslands stretch toward the horizon, broken only by scattered acacia trees and the dark shapes of animals moving slowly through the heat. But this silence is deceptive. The dry season has tightened its grip, and every passing day changes the rules of survival. Waterholes that once drew thousands of animals are shrinking into shallow pools surrounded by cracked earth. Green grass has faded to brittle yellow stalks. Herds of zebra, wildebeest, and antelope must travel farther between food and water, exposing themselves for longer periods in open country. For the herbivores, every journey is a gamble. Remaining close to a dying water source means hunger. Moving on means entering territory where predators may already be waiting. And hidden in the tall, sunburned grass, another family is facing the same crisis from the opposite side. A pride of lions rests in the narrow shade, conserving every possible ounce of energy. Their stillness can be mistaken for laziness, but in this heat, unnecessary movement is expensive. The pride has many mouths to feed, and hunger does not distinguish between the powerful and the vulnerable. Adults need strength to defend territory and hunt. Growing cubs depend entirely on the success of the group. A failed pursuit is therefore more than a missed meal. It is energy spent without reward, and during the dry season, that loss can matter. Lions are among the most social of the big cats, and this is where their greatest advantage begins. A single lion is formidable, but a coordinated pride can become something far more effective. A network of eyes, muscles, instincts, and experience working toward the same purpose. They do not need words to organize. A glance, a change in posture, the direction of an ear, or the slow movement of one lioness through the grass can signal the beginning of a plan. As the afternoon heat starts to weaken, heads rise one by one. Somewhere beyond the grass, hooves disturb the dust. The pride has heard what the human eye cannot yet see. Hunger has been waiting all day. Now the hunters are awake. Within the pride, strength has different forms. The adult male is the most visually imposing member, his heavy mane framing a face built to intimidate rivals. His role is essential. He patrols and defends the territory, confronts competing males, and helps protect the pride from threats that could destroy the family structure. But the same mane that announces power can also make concealment more difficult beneath the African sun. When food must be won through stealth, patience, and sudden acceleration, the lionesses usually take the leading role. Their bodies are lighter, their movements more agile, and years of hunting together have taught them how to read one another with extraordinary precision. One lioness may remain almost completely motionless while another begins a wide circle through the grass. A third may position herself near the direction in which frightened prey is most likely to run. To an unsuspecting herd, nothing seems to be happening. In reality, the hunt may already be several minutes old. The lionesses are not simply watching their prey, they are studying its structure. Which animal keeps looking away? Which one is limping? Which youngster has wandered too far from its mother? Which adult has allowed a dangerous gap to open between itself and the protection of the herd? The answers determine whether the pride attacks or waits. That patience is crucial because a lion cannot afford to sprint indefinitely. Explosive speed is powerful, but brief. If the prey detects the ambush too early, the chase can become a losing exchange of energy. Worse still, large prey can fight back. Hooves can break bones. Horns can cause fatal wounds. A single injury may prevent a lioness from hunting for days or weeks, placing additional pressure on every other member of the pride. So the real contest begins before claws ever touch the ground at full speed. It begins with information, wind direction, distance, cover, escape routes, the spacing of the herd, the confidence of the target. In this world, patience is not hesitation, it is a weapon. And as the sun sinks lower, the lionesses spread almost invisibly through the grass, each one taking a position in a strategy no prey animal can afford to misunderstand. Then the landscape changes. Far across the plain, a pattern of black and white begins to move through the golden grass. A herd of zebras is approaching, drawn toward the same diminishing resources that have concentrated life across the savannah. To a hungry pride, the sight is promising, but it is not an invitation to attack blindly. Zebras are powerful animals with strong legs, impressive endurance, and the ability to accelerate quickly when danger appears. A well-placed kick can seriously injure a lion. More importantly, the herd itself is a defense. Dozens of moving bodies, shifting stripes, alert ears, and watchful eyes make it difficult for a predator to approach unnoticed, and even harder to select one target once panic begins. The lions therefore wait. This is the calculation behind almost every serious hunt. How much energy can be spent, how much danger can be accepted, and how likely is the reward. Lions fail far more often than dramatic wildlife footage might suggest. The savanna does not guarantee a meal simply because a predator is hungry. Every unsuccessful sprint drains reserves that must somehow be replaced. Every reckless attack risks an injury that could become a death sentence. That is why the pride does not immediately explode from cover. Instead, the lionesses lower their bodies until their backs nearly disappear beneath the grass. The wind carries their scent away from the herd. One moves left. Another remains behind. A third advances only when the zebras lower their heads to graze. The distance closes slowly, almost painfully slowly. Nothing has happened yet, and still the entire outcome may already be taking shape. The lions are not looking at the herd as a single mass. They are waiting for one mistake, an animal drifting too far from the others, a moment of confusion, a gap that remains open for 1 second too long. On the horizon, dust hangs in the evening light. The zebras continue forward, unaware of how carefully their movements are being measured. Somewhere in the grass, a lioness freezes and fixes her eyes on one individual near the edge of the herd. The pride has not attacked, not yet. But the first target has been chosen, and the next few seconds may decide who eats, who escapes, and who survives another night. Across the fading gold of the African plain, black and white stripes move like waves. The zebra herd has no idea that several lionesses are already hidden around its edge. To the predators, this is not simply a collection of possible meals. It is a moving fortress. Every zebra adds another pair of eyes, another pair of ears, another chance that the ambush will be discovered before it begins. An adult zebra is no helpless target. It is heavy, muscular, built for endurance, and capable of explosive acceleration when danger suddenly breaks from cover. Its hind legs can deliver a punishing kick, and in open country, distance quickly becomes its greatest ally. That is exactly why the lionesses refuse to rush. The hunt began before the zebras ever realized they were being watched. One lioness remains low behind a curtain of dry grass. Another has moved farther to the side, almost disappearing into the color of the earth. A third waits behind, not because she is late, but because she may be positioned where frightened prey will eventually run. The lions are not trying to outrun the entire herd. That would waste energy and almost certainly fail. Their real objective is to change the geometry of the herd, to create a moment when one animal no longer benefits from the protection of the many. The wind matters, the grass matters. The direction in which the zebras are facing matters. Even the distance between two neighboring animals may become important. Every few seconds, heads rise and ears turn. The herd is alert, but alertness cannot remain perfect forever. Eventually, one zebra takes several steps away from the tighter formation. It is a large male, powerful enough to be dangerous, but now positioned closer to the outer edge. The nearest lioness freezes. She does not attack. Not yet. Another zebra lifts its head. For a moment, the entire plain seems to stop breathing. Then the herd relaxes again. The male continues forward. The gap widens. That is what the lionesses have been waiting for. Suddenly, the grass erupts. One predator launches from cover, not directly toward the zebra, but at an angle designed to push him away from the herd. Dust explodes beneath pounding hooves. The peaceful landscape disappears in an instant. Now there is only speed, direction, and a rapidly shrinking margin for error. The zebra reacts almost immediately. Its first defense is acceleration. Muscles tighten, hooves strike the dry ground, and the animal drives toward what appears to be open space. But that open space is not accidental. Another lioness is already moving across it. This is where the difference between speed and strategy becomes visible. A lioness may possess tremendous short-range acceleration, but the zebra can maintain its escape for longer. If this becomes a simple race across open ground, the lions may lose, so they try to prevent it from becoming one. The first lioness pressures from behind, forcing the zebra to maintain speed. A second approaches from the side, narrowing the safest escape route. Others remain close enough to exploit a sudden turn. The zebra changes direction sharply, and for a second the maneuver works. One lioness overshoots and loses ground. The male is still strong. He is still fighting for every meter, but every turn has a cost. Momentum is lost. The distance to the herd becomes harder to recover. The very strength that makes a zebra dangerous, its heavy, powerful body, also means that repeated changes of direction demand energy. The lions are taking risks as well. Getting too close to the hind legs could end the hunt with shattered bone instead of food, so they do not simply throw themselves onto the target. They probe, adjust, retreat half a step, then accelerate again. The pursuit becomes a moving calculation. For the zebra, the goal is not necessarily to outrun every lion. It only needs to regain the confusion and protection of the herd. For the lionesses, the goal is the opposite. Preserve isolation. Seconds stretch into a contest of nerve. Dust hides feet and distorts distance. One mistake from either side could reverse everything. Then the zebra turns again, this time toward the herd. For an instant, a path appears, but a lioness coming from the flank closes the angle and forces another turn. The escape route disappears almost as quickly as it opened. Whether this hunt succeeds or fails, the lesson is already clear. Lions do not dominate because they are unbeatable. They create advantage by sharing pressure. One animal forces the movement. Another anticipates it. A third waits for the mistake. On the savannah, cooperation can transform several brief bursts of speed into something far more dangerous than speed alone. But the plains do not belong to zebras alone. Far beyond this chase, another movement begins to fill the horizon, first as a distant vibration, then as a low thunder rolling across the ground. Wildebeest are moving through the savannah in enormous numbers, their migration transforming the landscape into a living river of bodies, dust, and sound. For lions, such abundance appears irresistible, yet a vast herd creates its own form of protection. When thousands of animals move together, a predator must somehow turn abundance into isolation. Wildebeest can accelerate rapidly, merge back into the herd, and use their curved horns when escape is no longer possible. The lionesses therefore return to the same fundamental question: where is the weakness? They watch the edges rather than the center. They look for a youngster losing contact, an exhausted adult, or an individual that reacts a fraction of a second later than those around it. Then pressure begins. The herd surges. Animals change direction almost simultaneously, and the ground disappears beneath a cloud of dust. In this chaos, numbers can save a life, or create the confusion that separates one animal from everyone else. A wildebeest suddenly finds itself outside the main flow. Lions close from more than one direction. But this prey does not surrender simply because it has been isolated. It turns. Its head drops. Curved horns point toward the nearest threat. The lioness checks her advance. That hesitation matters. A predator cannot afford bravery without calculation. A horn driven into the body could turn one meal into a fatal mistake. The wildebeest lunges forward, forcing space between itself and the cats. For a moment, the balance changes. If it can reach the moving herd, numbers will once again become protection. If the lions can keep it turning, fatigue may become their ally. This is the true drama of the hunt. Neither side possesses certainty. The predator has strategy, but the prey has resistance. The predator has teamwork, but the herd has unity. Sometimes the lions win. Sometimes the intended victim breaks the circle and disappears back into thousands of pounding hooves. And sometimes a single defensive turn is enough to make the hunters decide that the price is too high. On these plains, survival is rarely awarded to the strongest animal. More often, it belongs to the one that makes the right decision before the other side can exploit a mistake. As the dust settles, the lions watch the herd continue across the horizon. Hunger remains. Another opportunity will come. But somewhere ahead, the dry season is forcing predators toward prey far larger and far more dangerous than anything they have faced so far. By the height of the dry season, water has become the most valuable currency on the African savanna. Rivers retreat from their banks. Shallow pools collapse into dark patches of mud, and animals that once spread across enormous distances are forced toward the same shrinking refuges. Here, the rules that govern the open grasslands begin to change. A lion pride may dominate many encounters on dry ground, but at the water's edge, another giant holds its position. The hippopotamus is built on a completely different scale. An adult can weigh more than 3,000 pounds, carrying a massive body protected by thick skin and armed with jaws powerful enough to make even experienced predators hesitate. During the hottest hours, hippos remain close to or inside the water, where they regulate their body temperature and occupy an environment they know intimately. As evening approaches, they may move onto land to graze. For hungry lions, that transition creates opportunity, but opportunity is not the same as safety. The pride approaches cautiously. There is no reckless charge, no immediate attempt to overwhelm the largest animal. Instead, the lionesses test the boundary. One advances several steps and stops. Another circles farther away. A hippo turns, and the lions instantly adjust. The message is unmistakable. This prey will not behave like a fleeing antelope. A healthy adult can respond to pressure by facing the threat directly or accelerating toward the safety of water. A single mistake at close range could leave a lion badly injured and unable to hunt. For a pride already struggling through the dry season, that cost may be greater than the value of the meal itself. So the lions wait and watch. Hunger demands action, but instinct demands restraint. Around them, the last pool grows more crowded as the landscape continues to dry. Every animal has come for the same reason, and every species is being compressed into a smaller arena. At the center of it stands the hippo herd, massive and seemingly secure. Yet the lions are not searching for strength. They are searching for the moment when strength becomes divided. They study the edges, the distances between individuals, and the changing ground beneath their feet. Because in the dry season, the greatest danger may not come from an attacker. It may come from the landscape itself. Among the adults, a mother keeps her calf close. The youngster is small only by comparison with the enormous bodies surrounding it, and its safest position is beside its mother and within reach of the water. She understands the threat without needing to see every lion. Her body repeatedly shifts between the calf and the open grassland, creating a living barrier. When a lioness moves closer, the mother turns. When another appears on the opposite side, she adjusts again. The pride does not commit. Instead, the lionesses apply pressure in brief, measured advances, looking for a reaction. They are testing more than courage. They are testing mobility, attention, and the strength of the protective formation. The mother responds decisively enough to keep them at a distance. For now, the defense works. But the ground is changing beneath everyone. What was once soft shoreline has become a wide belt of drying mud, cracked in some places and sticky in others. The adults cross it with heavy, deliberate steps. For the calf, each movement requires more effort. Its shorter legs sink deeper. Its pace becomes uneven. The difference is small at first, perhaps only a few steps, but predators survive by noticing differences that others miss. A lioness sees the gap open and immediately changes direction. Another rises from the grass. The mother turns back toward her calf, forcing one lion away, but that movement briefly exposes another side. The pride begins to stretch the defense. One lioness attracts attention. Another threatens the space behind. The encounter becomes a contest not of raw power, but of positioning. The mother still holds the overwhelming physical advantage in any direct confrontation, yet she cannot occupy two places at once. Every step toward one threat creates space somewhere else. The calf tries to follow, struggling across the drying ground. Nearby, younger lions watch the adults. For them, this is more than a possible meal. It is a lesson. They are learning when to advance, when to stop, how close is too close, and how several hunters can create pressure without exposing themselves unnecessarily. No roar announces the strategy. No command is given. The knowledge passes through movement. Then, for a few critical seconds, the calf falls farther behind. The protective distance that the mother has fought to maintain begins to widen. The lions recognize it instantly. The balance at the water's edge has started to change. Now every movement carries greater consequence. The mother pivots toward the nearest lioness, forcing her back, but another predator moves toward the calf from the side. The youngster pushes through the mud, trying to reach the security of the adults. The distance is not great, yet under these conditions it may be enormous. The lionesses close in, but even now they remain cautious. A hippo calf is more vulnerable than an adult, but its mother is still close enough to transform a seemingly easy opportunity into disaster. One lioness advances, then retreats as the mother turns. Another uses that instant to move closer. The pride is doing what lions do best, distributing risk across several hunters until the target can no longer respond effectively to every direction at once. The tension lies not in a single burst of violence, but in the uncertainty of each second. Will the calf regain the water? Will the mother break the formation? Will the lions decide the danger is too great? In the wild, there is no guarantee that persistence will be rewarded. Many hunts end with predators abandoning an attempt because the cost rises too high. That ability to withdraw is as important as the courage to attack. But the dry season has made this opportunity unusually valuable. Feeding an entire pride requires substantial energy, and vulnerable prey cannot be ignored easily when other options are disappearing. The younger lions remain behind the most experienced hunters, observing the changing angles and reacting to every movement. Whatever the final outcome, the lesson will remain with them. Do not challenge strength directly when it can be divided. Do not waste energy when patience can create a safer opening, and never confuse an opportunity with certainty. At last, the confrontation reaches its decisive moment as the drying mud separates the calf from the protection it needs most. The lions tighten their formation. The mother responds with all the force her massive body can bring, but the landscape has already altered the equation. This is the brutal logic of the dry season. It does not choose predator or prey. It simply removes options until one mistake, one patch of difficult ground, or one widening gap becomes decisive. At the water's edge, size alone is not enough. Survival belongs to the animal that can control space, read danger, and react before the opening disappears. And beyond these shrinking pools, even greater challenges are waiting. On the open plains stand animals capable of killing a lion with a single kick, or driving an entire pride backward with the strength of a united herd. Some prey animals survive by running. Others survive by becoming too dangerous to approach. Across the open African plains, the giraffe rises above the dry grass like a moving watchtower, its height giving it a view of danger long before many other animals can detect it. But height is only part of its defense. Beneath that elegant frame are long, powerful legs capable of delivering devastating kicks, turning a seemingly vulnerable herbivore into a target that even experienced lions must treat with respect. During the dry season, however, hunger forces predators to consider risks they might otherwise avoid. The pride has already learned that brute force alone is not enough against the largest animals. So once again, the lionesses wait for circumstances to create weakness. A giraffe standing upright has reach, vision, and mobility. A giraffe lowering itself to drink is different. To reach the water, it must spread its front legs and lower its long neck, temporarily reducing its ability to pivot and accelerate. The moment is brief, but the lionesses are watching. Low grass offers little cover, forcing them to approach slowly and from different directions. One moves toward the rear. Another remains farther to the side. The objective is not to crash into the giraffe as one mass, but to make it turn repeatedly, forcing it to divide its attention. The giraffe senses the danger and rises. Suddenly, the apparent opportunity becomes a confrontation. One powerful leg swings backward, and the nearest lioness immediately breaks away. No meal is worth a shattered skull or broken ribs. The pride reorganizes. One group maintains pressure from behind, while another threatens from the side. The giraffe turns again and again, keeping its legs between itself and the hunters. Then the encounter becomes more complicated. A young giraffe has wandered dangerously close to the center of the disturbance. The mother must now solve two problems at once: defend herself and prevent the calf from becoming isolated. She moves to place her body between the youngster and the lions, but every protective movement changes the angles around her. The predators notice. The calf tries to stay close. Dust rises. Long legs strike the earth. For the lions, the smaller animal may be the safer target. For the mother, allowing even a few meters of separation could be disastrous. Once again, the battle is not simply strength against strength. It is a contest over position, attention, and the ability to remain together under pressure. The giraffe may tower above the grasslands, but another animal presents the lions with an entirely different kind of fortress. The African buffalo does not need extraordinary height. Its defense is built from mass, horns, aggression, and the power of the herd. An adult can weigh close to a ton, and its thick, curved horns create a formidable barrier around the head. A buffalo that stands its ground can force a lion to reconsider every step. Yet for a hungry pride, the potential reward is enormous. A successful buffalo hunt can provide food for many members of the group, making the risk difficult to ignore when other prey is scarce. The lions therefore search for the condition that changes almost every hunt: separation. At the edge of the herd, one buffalo begins to fall behind. Perhaps it is tired. Perhaps the dry season has weakened it. Whatever the reason, the gap between the animal and the main group slowly grows. The lionesses respond immediately, but they do not rush toward the horns. They spread out. One applies pressure from the front, forcing the buffalo to turn. Another circles toward the side, narrowing the path back to the herd. Others remain behind, ready to exploit movement. The buffalo lowers its head and faces the greatest threat. In a direct collision, it may have the advantage, so the lions refuse to give it the confrontation at once. They advance, withdraw, and advance again. Their weapon is not impact but endurance. Each turn costs the buffalo energy. Each attempt to charge one lion leaves another angle exposed. The isolated animal is powerful enough to repel a single attacker, but the pride is trying to make power irrelevant by forcing it to respond repeatedly in different directions. Dust coats the buffalo's flanks. Its breathing grows heavier. Still, it refuses to collapse. A sudden charge sends one lioness racing backward. Another leaps away from the horns. The message is clear. Weakness has not yet become helplessness, and somewhere beyond the confrontation, the main herd has begun to notice that one of its members is missing. Then comes a sound that can change the entire hunt. An alarm travels through the buffalo herd, and bodies that had been moving away begin to turn. For the lions, this is the moment when an apparently isolated target can suddenly regain the most powerful defense of all: its companions. One buffalo turns back, then another. Soon, several massive animals are moving toward the confrontation. The pride sees the danger immediately. A single buffalo is risky. A wall of buffalo is something else entirely. The lions that had been applying pressure now begin to give ground. The isolated animal, exhausted but still standing, gains precious seconds. More buffalo arrive, lowering their heads as they advance. The balance shifts with remarkable speed. The hunters that had surrounded one animal are now the ones in danger of being surrounded or trampled. Lionesses retreat through the dust, abandoning the attack rather than paying an unacceptable price. This is one of the savanna's most important lessons. Unity can reverse a hunt, yet the outcome is never guaranteed. If the herd does not return, or if an isolated buffalo remains separated for too long, exhaustion can slowly weaken even the strongest defense. That uncertainty is what makes every encounter different. Lions succeed not because they always overpower their prey, but because they constantly evaluate when to attack, when to wait, and when to retreat. Their prey survives by making the same calculations from the opposite side. The giraffe uses height, vigilance, powerful legs, and maternal protection. The buffalo uses horns, mass, stubborn resistance, and, when the herd responds, collective force. In both encounters, the lions discover the limits of individual power. A predator may possess claws and speed, but those advantages mean little if a single kick can end the hunt, or if dozens of horned animals decide to return together. As evening settles over the plains, the pride withdraws into the grass. Hunger has not disappeared, but neither has caution. The dry season will continue to test every animal here. Yet our story is about to leave this burning landscape behind. Far to the north, another social predator faces a different enemy. There, water is not disappearing beneath the brutal sun. It is frozen beneath snow and ice. The grasslands will give way to a white wilderness, explosive ambushes to relentless pursuit, and the lion pride to a pack of gray wolves. The landscape changes completely, but the oldest rule of survival remains the same. Alone, strength has limits. Together, it can change the fate of an entire hunt. The sun disappears behind the African horizon, and for a moment the savanna is reduced to silhouettes. Acacia branches, distant herds, and lions fading into the tall grass. But survival is not confined to this burning landscape. Thousands of miles away, the same ancient struggle unfolds beneath an entirely different sky. Golden grass gives way to white plains, dust becomes snow. Heat that drains the body is replaced by cold that steals energy with every hour. Here, winter controls the rhythm of life. Food is harder to find, movement is more expensive, and a mistake can become dangerous long before a predator ever reaches its prey. Across this frozen wilderness moves another social hunter, the gray wolf. At first glance, the wolf lacks the overwhelming appearance of an adult lion. It does not carry a mane, and a single wolf may seem small beside the large hoofed animals it pursues. But judging this predator alone misses the source of its power. Like lions, wolves survive through the group. Their strength lies in communication, discipline, endurance, and the ability to transform several individuals into one coordinated hunting force. A pack does not need constant noise to remain connected. Wolves communicate through howls that can carry across great distances, scent markings that define territory, body posture that signals intention, and subtle changes in movement that other pack members recognize immediately. In an environment where prey may be scattered across enormous areas, that coordination is essential. The pack must find food, protect its territory, and conserve enough energy to survive the cold between successful hunts. Every member matters. Experienced adults help guide movement and make decisions during dangerous encounters. Younger wolves learn by following, watching, testing boundaries, and discovering when persistence is useful and when retreat is necessary. The frozen landscape may appear empty, but the wolves are constantly reading it. Tracks pressed into snow reveal who passed before them. Wind carries scent over long distances. A disturbed flock of birds may indicate activity ahead. Even silence contains information. As night settles over the northern wilderness, a howl rises into the cold air and another answers from far away. The sound is more than a symbol of the wild. It is a declaration that the pack is present, connected, and ready to move. In Africa, lions waited in grass for prey to come within striking distance. Here, the wolves may have to go looking for it. And once they find it, the hunt can stretch across miles. The difference between these predators is written into the landscapes that shape them. Lions often depend on concealment and explosive acceleration. Their ideal hunt begins close to the target, after patient stalking has reduced the distance enough for a short, violent chase. Wolves frequently operate under another set of conditions. On open snowfields, forests, valleys, and tundra, hiding until the final few meters may not be possible. Instead, endurance becomes a weapon. The pack can follow large prey across long distances, applying pressure, studying reactions, and waiting for weakness to reveal itself. They do not need every animal in a herd to become vulnerable. They need only one. A slight limp, a slower turn, a young animal drifting from adults, or an exhausted individual struggling through deep snow can transform the entire calculation. Yet the wolves cannot simply rush whatever appears weak. Their prey can be enormous. Bison carry massive shoulders and curved horns. Elk can kick with enough force to cause severe injury. Caribou can move efficiently across snow and disappear into the safety of a migrating herd. So, as with the lion pride, intelligence is inseparable from aggression. The wolves test. They approach, watch the response, then adjust. A strong animal that turns confidently to face the pack may be left alone. Another that panics and runs may attract immediate attention. The chase is therefore a conversation written in movement. Predator asks a question. Prey answers. The pack asks again. With every turn, acceleration, stumble, and defensive stand, more information is revealed. This is where the similarities between lions and wolves become striking. Both depend on teamwork, but neither attacks without limits. Both search for isolation. Both distribute pressure across several hunters. Both understand, through instinct and experience, that an injury can be more costly than a missed meal. The difference is tempo. A lion hunt may be decided in seconds after the ambush breaks. A wolf pursuit can become a long contest in which fatigue slowly changes what strength means. The prey that was powerful at the beginning may still be powerful an hour later, but not equally powerful. Deep snow becomes heavier. Cold muscles work harder. Every escape consumes energy. The wolves continue to measure the cost. Their goal is not always to overpower the strongest body. It is to remain present until the landscape and exhaustion begin to reduce the prey's advantage. Winter makes that patience both possible and necessary. In severe cold, food is not merely a reward. It is fuel that keeps the pack alive. Every mile traveled consumes calories. Every night without enough food places greater pressure on the next hunt. A successful kill can sustain the group, but failure means the wolves must continue searching while their own reserves decline. Territory therefore becomes more than a boundary on the landscape. It represents access to prey, familiar travel routes, shelter, and the resources that allow the pack to endure. Defending it is part of survival just as hunting is. Yet the greatest test begins when the wolves encounter animals whose size makes direct confrontation almost unthinkable. Ahead, through blowing snow, dark shapes emerge. A herd of bison stands against the storm, shoulders rising like walls above the white ground. To a lone wolf, an adult bison is an opponent of terrifying power. Even to a pack, it is not something to attack carelessly. But the wolves do not need to defeat the entire herd. They begin by watching. Which animal stays close to the center? Which one lags when the group moves? Is there a youngster protected by adults? Is there an older individual losing pace? The same logic that guided lionesses through African grass now appears beneath a frozen sky. Do not challenge the group if the group can be broken into individuals. The wolves spread out. One moves forward and draws attention. Another travels along the edge. Others remain at a distance, ready to respond if the herd changes direction. There is no sudden explosion from tall grass. Instead, pressure builds gradually. The bison shift. Snow rises around their legs. The pack follows. At first, nothing seems decisive, but that is exactly the point. Wolves can turn time into a hunting tool. They are willing to wait for the formation to weaken, for fatigue to accumulate, for one animal to make the wrong choice. On the savannah, the lionesses taught us that patience can be a weapon. In the frozen north, the wolves take that lesson even further. Here, the hunt may not belong to the fastest predator or the strongest prey. It may belong to the side that can endure the longest. And as the storm closes around the herd, the first cracks in its formation are beginning to appear. In the middle of a blizzard, the bison looks less like prey than a fortress carved from the storm itself. Heavy shoulders rise above the snow, massive heads lower behind curved horns, and the herd closes ranks against the cold. A direct attack would be reckless. The wolves know it. They are not trying to defeat all that strength in one violent moment. They are trying to make the formation lose its order. The pack spreads across the white plain, keeping enough distance to avoid a sudden charge. One wolf advances, barking sharply, then retreats as a bison turns. Another approaches from the opposite side. A third moves along the rear. The pressure comes in short waves, never remaining in one place long enough for the herd to settle. Each turn costs the bison energy. Each change of direction forces adults to reposition around younger or weaker animals. The wolves are watching for the smallest crack, a calf that hesitates, an exhausted animal that takes 2 steps too slowly, an individual that drifts beyond the protection of the group. Snow and wind make the test harder for both sides. The bison must keep moving through resistance that pulls at every leg, while the wolves must spend precious calories simply to maintain pressure. There is no guarantee the strategy will work. If the herd remains tight, the wolves may eventually abandon the attempt. But when one animal falls slightly behind, the pack reacts almost instantly. Several wolves change direction, not rushing into contact, but closing the safest routes back. An adult bison turns to help, forcing the nearest wolf away. That act of defense can save the vulnerable animal, yet it also disrupts the formation again. For a few seconds, the herd becomes a puzzle of shifting bodies and competing priorities. This is exactly what the pack has been trying to create. Against a bison, teeth alone are not enough. The real weapon is coordinated disorder. Pressure applied until one enormous wall becomes several separate animals. The blizzard hides the horizon. Snow gathers on dark coats, and still the wolves continue, waiting to discover whether the herd's unity will hold longer than their own endurance. Farther north, the frozen world begins to move. The sound arrives first. Thousands of hooves striking hard ground in packed snow. Caribou are on the march, seasonal travelers crossing vast distances through tundra where food, weather, and survival are always shifting. Their wide hooves help them move across snow, and the strength of a migrating herd lies in motion. To a wolf pack, thousands of animals do not mean thousands of easy opportunities. They mean thousands of bodies that can hide one another, confuse pursuit, and absorb panic without necessarily breaking apart. So the wolves work the edges. They use the wind to approach without immediately revealing their scent. They use narrow terrain to compress movement. Then they begin to apply pressure in waves. A few wolves accelerate toward one side, forcing the caribou to adjust. They fall back and others take over. The purpose is not simply to run faster. It is to disturb the rhythm that keeps the herd safe. A caribou that remains inside the moving mass is difficult to isolate. One that panics and chooses the wrong line may suddenly find empty space around it. That moment arrives quickly. A single animal breaks away, trying to escape the pressure by cutting across uneven snow. For an instant, the decision seems successful. Then the ground becomes part of the hunt. Its footing is less certain. Returning to the herd requires a sharper turn and more energy. A lead wolf closes from behind while another angles across the likely route back. The rest of the pack follows without wasting movement. Even now, success is not assured. Caribou are built for travel, and a healthy adult may regain its rhythm and disappear into the herd. The wolves therefore keep testing rather than committing blindly. If the target recovers, they may release the pressure and search for another weakness. If it continues to lose ground, the circle tightens. In winter, a single successful hunt can become critical fuel for the entire pack, yet every chase must justify its cost. The wolves survive not because they attack everything that runs, but because they learn to recognize the difference between movement and vulnerability. On the tundra, panic opens the door. Terrain decides how wide that door becomes. Then the pack encounters a different challenge: elk. Large, enduring, and dangerous at close range, an adult elk can turn a pursuit into a serious risk with one defensive stand. Antlers can threaten from the front, while powerful legs make the rear equally dangerous. A strong animal that turns confidently toward the wolves may stop the chase almost immediately. The pack does not interpret retreat as defeat. It is calculation. An injured wolf may lose the ability to hunt, travel, or defend territory, so courage without judgment can threaten more than one member of the family. The wolves therefore move alongside the herd and read each individual. They watch gait, breathing, position, and reaction. One elk maintains pace easily. Another stays protected near the center. A third begins to fall a little behind. The difference is subtle. But subtle differences are what persistent predators are built to notice. The pack shifts toward the slower animal. At first, the elk responds with speed, opening distance across firm snow. The wolves do not immediately close the gap. They follow. When the elk turns, they turn. When it accelerates, they maintain pursuit without wasting a full sprint too early. The contest is no longer about which animal can produce the greatest burst of speed. It is about which side can continue making effective decisions after fatigue begins to distort them. The elk tries to rejoin the herd, but wolves moving along the flank make the direct route difficult. It changes direction again. Another burst of energy is spent. Then it stops and faces them. The wolves fan out beyond kicking range. No one commits. Breath hangs in the freezing air. For a moment, predator and prey simply measure one another. The elk is still formidable. The wolves know it. They wait until it moves again. That patience reveals the defining character of the northern hunt. Wolves do not always force an immediate conclusion. Sometimes their greatest advantage is refusing to demand one. They remain present, turning distance into pressure and time into a weapon. If the elk can maintain strength, the pack may fail. If fatigue begins to accumulate, every mile ahead becomes more dangerous than the last. Now the landscape itself enters the pursuit. Ahead lies a patchwork of deep snow, frozen streams, riverbanks, and marshy ground. Terrain that can change the balance without choosing a side. The elk searches for escape, but each route carries a different cost. Firm ground favors its long stride. Deep snow increases resistance. Water can interrupt pursuit, yet entering a stream or marsh can also make every step heavier and slow the moment of acceleration needed to break away. The wolves do not control these obstacles, but they can learn to use them. They pressure from angles that make the easiest route back to the herd less accessible. One wolf moves close enough to force a turn. Another waits farther ahead. Others follow the line of escape, conserving enough energy to continue if the chase stretches on. Minutes can become much longer. Distance accumulates. The elk's strength has not disappeared, but strength is never a fixed quantity. It changes with cold, footing, fear, and exhaustion. A kick that was lightning fast at the beginning may become slower after repeated turns. A leap through snow that was effortless may demand more energy each time. The wolves are tiring too, and that is what makes the contest uncertain. They must judge whether the prey is weakening faster than they are. If not, the hunt becomes a losing investment and the pack must let go. If the balance shifts, they continue. Terrain becomes an invisible member of the hunt, not an ally in the human sense, but a force that reshapes what every animal can do. This is the climax of the wolves' winter strategy. Against bison, they test formation. Against caribou, they exploit panic and separation. Against elk, they turn distance and difficult ground into a long negotiation with exhaustion. They do not always conquer strength. Often, they simply remain close enough for strength to spend itself. And when the chase finally ends, whether in a meal or another costly failure, the pack faces a new truth. Winning food does not mean the danger is over. In the frozen wilderness, territory has rivals, hunger has competitors, and even a hard-earned meal may have to be defended from animals powerful enough to take it away. A successful hunt does not always end the struggle. In the frozen wilderness, bringing down prey may solve one problem only to create another. The scent of fresh food travels. Ravens circle above a carcass. Tracks accumulate in the snow. What the pack has earned through miles of pursuit can quickly attract competitors that spent none of the energy required to obtain it. For wolves, a carcass is more than a meal. It is a reservoir of calories that may sustain the pack through several bitter days, and abandoning it too early can mean repeating the dangerous search for food before the wolves have recovered from the last hunt. So the pack feeds quickly, but it also watches. Heads rise between bites. Ears turn towards sounds beyond the trees. Some members remain closer to the carcass while others scan the surrounding ground. The same cooperation that helps secure the prey now becomes a defensive system. Yet the first competitors are often not another pack of wolves. Smaller scavengers may test the edges, waiting for scraps or opportunities. Birds arrive from above. Coyotes, where their ranges overlap, may remain at a distance, alert to any moment when the wolves move away. Larger competitors can change the atmosphere entirely. A bear approaching a carcass represents a different equation of size and risk. The wolves may bark, circle, rush forward, and retreat, attempting to make the intruder uncomfortable without entering a confrontation they cannot afford. Numbers can give the pack confidence, but numbers do not erase physical danger. If the cost of defense becomes too high, survival may require surrendering part, or even all, of the meal. This is the hidden cost behind every successful hunt. Energy was spent finding the herd. More was spent testing it, chasing it, and isolating a target. Now additional energy may be required simply to keep the reward. A carcass, therefore, becomes a temporary center of conflict, drawing together hunger, territory, and competition. The wolves are no longer asking whether they can catch prey. They are asking whether they can hold what they caught. And in winter, when every calorie matters, losing a meal can be almost as consequential as failing to hunt at all. But the most dangerous rival may look almost exactly like the hunters themselves. Somewhere beyond the pack's feeding ground lies the boundary of another wolf territory. These borders are invisible to human eyes, yet to wolves they are written across the landscape in scent, tracks, familiar travel routes, and repeated signals. Territory means access to prey. It can contain denning areas, resting sites, water, protected routes through difficult terrain, and places where generations of pack members have learned how animals move. To lose territory is not simply to lose land. It may mean losing the resources that make family survival possible. This is why wolves advertise ownership before physical conflict becomes necessary. Scent marks communicate presence. Howls can travel across valleys and forests, allowing one pack to announce itself without immediately confronting another. In many cases, distance and communication prevent violence. But hunger, changing prey movements, dispersing wolves, or shifting pack sizes can push rivals closer together. When two packs detect one another, the atmosphere changes immediately. Bodies stiffen. Movement becomes more deliberate. Individuals gather closer. A numerical advantage can matter enormously, because an isolated wolf caught by a rival group may face serious danger. The pack therefore functions as both hunting unit and defensive alliance. Experienced wolves help maintain cohesion, while younger members learn the boundaries through repeated travel. A territory is remembered with the body, where to cross a ridge, where scent should be renewed, where another pack was last heard. Conflict may begin with distant howling, parallel movement, or cautious investigation of fresh tracks. Neither side benefits from unnecessary injury, so direct confrontation is not inevitable. But if both groups refuse to yield, the same teamwork used against prey can be turned against rivals. The stakes are different now. There is no meal running ahead. There is no weakened target selected from a herd. The opponent understands many of the same tactics, possesses the same senses, and is fighting for the same fundamental resources. In such encounters, unity becomes more important than individual aggression. A wolf that rushes too far ahead can become vulnerable. A pack that stays coordinated presents a far greater threat. Here, cooperation is no longer merely a way to eat. It is a way to remain a pack at all. The pressure of territory also shapes the lives of wolves that leave their families. Young adults may eventually disperse, traveling alone across unfamiliar country in search of a mate, unoccupied space, or the chance to form a new pack. For a social hunter, this can be one of the most dangerous periods of life. The lone wolf has lost the immediate advantages of numbers. There are fewer eyes to detect danger, no partners to help test large prey, and no group to defend a carcass once food is obtained. Hunting strategy must change. A solitary wolf may focus on smaller opportunities, scavenge when possible, or avoid prey that a full pack could challenge. It must also cross territories that may already belong to established groups. Every unfamiliar scent mark becomes information. Every distant howl can signal both possibility and danger. The dispersing wolf cannot simply move wherever it wants. It must navigate a map of invisible ownership while preserving enough energy to keep searching. Yet dispersal is also how new packs begin. Two wolves may eventually establish a pair bond, settle where resources permit, and create the nucleus of a new family. In that sense, the risk of leaving the pack is tied directly to the future of the species. The social system depends on both cohesion and separation. Individuals must cooperate intensely within a family, but some must eventually depart so that new families can form elsewhere. This creates a striking contrast with the hunt. During a pursuit, separation is what predators try to impose on prey. In wolf society, separation can also be a necessary stage of renewal. Still, the cost remains high. A lone animal moving through winter cannot rely on the shared endurance of companions. Every failed attempt is paid for individually. Every night of cold is endured alone. Every rival territory must be crossed with caution. The wilderness that felt navigable as part of a pack can suddenly become enormous. This is why the howl of another wolf can carry such weight across the frozen landscape. It may announce an enemy, it may identify a family. Or for a dispersing wolf, it may represent the possibility that isolation is about to end. By late winter, the story of the pack can be read in its scars, its movements, and the distances it has crossed. Every meal has had a cost. Every boundary has demanded attention. Every member has contributed something different. Endurance in the chase, experience in choosing prey, vigilance at the carcass, communication across distance, or simply the presence that turns one vulnerable animal into part of a formidable group. The pack is not powerful because every wolf is equal in skill or strength. It is powerful because individual differences can be combined. The same principle has followed us from the African savanna to the frozen north. Lionesses spread through dry grass to isolate zebras and wildebeest. Mothers defended calves. Buffalo returned to protect a threatened member. Wolves tested bison formations, pressured migrating caribou, and followed elk until terrain and fatigue altered the contest. Again and again, survival has depended on the relationship between the individual and the group. Cooperation can help predators hunt, but it can also help prey resist. Territory can protect a family, but defending it consumes energy. A successful kill can feed the pack, but the carcass can attract rivals. Nature offers no permanent victory. Every advantage creates a new responsibility, and every solution eventually becomes another problem to solve. As the season begins to turn, the wolves move across their territory once more. Their tracks stretch over the snow in a loose line, then converge as the terrain narrows. From above, the individuals appear small against the immense landscape. Together, however, they carry knowledge that no single hunter could fully replace. They know where prey moves, where danger waits, when to pursue, when to retreat, and how to respond to one another without hesitation. Soon, our journey will return to the central question connecting lions and wolves across two continents. Why does cooperation work so well, and what does it cost? The final chapter is not about a single hunt. It is about the deeper rule behind all of them, the power, limits, and consequences of surviving together. From the burning savanna to the frozen north, no predator rules without limits, and no prey survives without resistance. Across 2 continents, we have watched lions disappear into golden grass, and wolves move like shadows across snow. Their worlds could hardly look more different. One is shaped by heat, drought, shrinking water, and sudden bursts of speed. The other is governed by cold, distance, deep snow, and the slow arithmetic of endurance. Yet beneath those differences lies the same fundamental strategy. Neither lion nor wolf survives by strength alone. Both depend on timing, communication, patience, and the ability to recognize the instant when a group begins to fracture. Lionesses spread through grass without needing a spoken command. One applies pressure, another closes an escape route, while others wait for hesitation. Wolves use the same principle across a wider landscape. They test the edge of a herd, change angles, trade positions, and allow distance itself to weaken an animal that begins to fall behind. Their bodies are different because their environments demanded different solutions. Lions are built for concealment and explosive acceleration. Wolves are built to travel, follow, and persist. But in both cases, the individual becomes more effective when its actions fit the movements of others. Cooperation does not make these predators invincible. It simply allows them to attempt challenges that would be far more dangerous alone. And even then, every decision remains a calculation. A zebra can kick, a buffalo can charge, a bison can turn and defend itself, an elk can transform a pursuit into a dangerous standoff. The hunter must constantly decide whether the opportunity is worth the risk. This is why so many encounters end without a kill. Retreat is not necessarily failure. Sometimes it is the decision that keeps a predator alive for the next hunt. The greatest hunters are not those that attack at every opportunity. They are those that know the difference between vulnerability and a trap, between persistence and waste, between courage and a mistake that cannot be undone. But the story of survival cannot be understood by looking only at predators. Every animal pursued throughout this journey has carried its own answer to danger. Zebras turn the herd into rhythm and confusion, surrounding each individual with moving bodies and many watchful eyes. Wildebeest combine speed with enormous numbers, making isolation difficult while retaining the ability to turn and defend themselves. Hippos carry a different kind of protection, massive bodies, formidable jaws, and the security of water. Giraffes rise above the plains, seeing farther than many predators and defending themselves with legs powerful enough to make close contact extremely dangerous. African buffalo adds something more: solidarity. One animal may be isolated, but when the herd turns back, the hunters can suddenly become the ones forced to retreat. In the frozen north, bison build protection through formation, closing ranks around vulnerable members and presenting wolves with a wall of horns, muscle, and collective resistance. Caribou survive through movement. Migration carries them across immense distances, using numbers and mobility to reach changing resources while making any one pursuit part of a much larger flow. Elk rely on endurance, alertness, size, and the ability to stand and face danger when flight becomes too costly. None of these defenses is perfect. Every strategy has conditions under which it works, and conditions under which it begins to fail. A herd protects only while its members remain connected. Speed matters only while there is enough energy and suitable ground. Size can deter attack, but difficult terrain can reduce mobility. Water can be refuge, but shrinking pools can compress animals into dangerous proximity. The same environment that creates an advantage can later take it away. This is why survival is never a permanent possession. It must be renegotiated with every season, every change in terrain, every approach of a predator, and every moment when an animal must choose whether to run, turn, fight, wait, or return for another member of the group. Predators, too, are part of a larger system than any single chase reveals. Lions and wolves influence the communities in which they live by hunting prey and often targeting animals that are vulnerable, isolated, young, old, injured, or otherwise easier to catch. Their presence can affect where prey move, how long animals remain in particular places, and how energy flows through the landscape after a kill. A carcass does not feed only the hunter. Scavengers arrive. Smaller animals take what remains. Nutrients return to the environment. Yet none of this means predators live above the laws they impose on others. They are bound by those laws as tightly as their prey. Hunger follows every failed hunt. Injury can turn a powerful hunter into an animal unable to keep pace. Rival predators can steal food that required hours of effort. Territorial conflict can transform familiar ground into danger. Drought can reduce prey in one region. Severe winter can raise the energetic cost of every mile in another. Environmental change can shift routes, timing, water, cover, and access to food. The predator that appears dominant in one scene may be struggling in the next. This is perhaps the most important correction to the image of the perfect killer. There is no perfect killer. There are only animals adapted to particular problems, carrying strengths that work under certain conditions and weaknesses that never disappear. Lions cannot afford endless failed sprints. Wolves cannot pursue forever without paying an energetic price. Both must read the world correctly often enough to survive, and their prey must do the same. The contest is therefore not a simple ladder with predator at the top and prey below. It is a network of pressures in which every participant changes the choices available to the others. As the final light settles over the savannah and the northern wind moves across fresh snow, the two landscapes seem to merge through a single idea. Nature is not a story of heroes and villains. The lion is not cruel for being hungry. The zebra is not weak because it runs. The wolf is not ruthless because it follows an exhausted animal, and the bison is not merely a victim when it turns to defend the herd. Each is responding to necessity with the tools evolution and experience have given it. The real drama lies in the negotiation. Hunger against resistance, instinct against uncertainty, individual strength against collective power, and patience against the pressure of time. Sometimes survival means attacking. Sometimes it means standing your ground. Sometimes it means returning for a threatened member of the herd. And sometimes it means recognizing that the danger is too great and walking away. Across every encounter, one truth has remained unchanged. Survival is never free. It is paid for in energy, vigilance, risk, discipline, courage, and cooperation. A decisive moment may last only seconds, but it is built from everything that came before, the miles traveled, the lessons learned, the bonds maintained, the failures survived. Tomorrow, the dry season will continue. Snow will fall again. Herds will move, predators will follow, and another calculation will begin. If one of these encounters stayed with you, tell us which one felt the most intense. Subscribe for more wildlife documentaries, and share which predator or survival story you would like us to explore next. Because in the wild, the story never truly ends. It simply passes to the next animal fighting for another day.